All right, how's everybody doing on this beautiful Thursday? Today's gonna be, I'm gonna jump right into it. This is gonna be a good one. I talk about this a lot in my mentorships. I talk about this a lot when I'm doing counseling and consulting sessions and whatnot. And I do say counseling because sometimes, you just gotta talk to the person themselves and work with them before you can do consulting for the company. But all in all, this question always gets brought up at some point in time. Aaron, how do you run your company? Simple answer, simple question, I should say. It's a simple question, but the answer is very detailed to get through something in a short amount of time. So as an owner, you want to have your barometer, so to speak, for where your company is at. Now, my barometer on the front end, I look at designs and estimates. There's a different barometers. We're going to get into that in a second, but you have to have a barometer, kind of feel, is it in the bell-shaped curve of what your company's used to doing? And you're going to be looking for those outlier situations. Perfect example, like designs. I have between 15 and 22 design requests in the queue at all times. As soon as the queue goes to 30, now I know that we have a problem and we have too much incoming for what the company can handle. We need to authorize overtime. We need to get a fourth designer. We need to handle it a different way to handle the onslaught that is happening to the company. Perfect example, of that, just kind of where you're looking at, bell-shaped curve or whatnot. All right. So let's go and really dive into it because it's very, very simple and very complex all at the same time. I'm going to give you the simple answer first. If you only got 2 minutes, you're listening to my podcast, here you go. Pay attention to what's coming in, pay attention to what's in progress, and pay attention to when it went out the back door and when you turn it into money. That's it. Head of the boat, water on next to the boat, water behind the boat. Those are the three things. Very simple. Those are the three things that you need to have a bell-shaped curve or barometer in your head of where they should be at all times. And as soon as they come out of that bell-shaped curve, now we have an issue. That's the end and the extent of how to run a company. I'm going to tell you how I run my company. In the front end, water in front of the boat. This is going to be a really simple one. And this is, you're going to be looking at three things. How many designs are in your queue? How many estimates are in your queue? And what the volume report looks like. For my company, 15 to 22 design requests is perfectly normal. That's where we're usually at all times. As soon as I get above 25, instant overtime switch for the designers. Guys, get that number back down below 20 before we come off the overtime. That tells me how many requests are coming in and which can turn into possible work. What percentage of work does your company have that you successfully do? 60% of the work that comes in, you successfully get it? 80%? 90%? What's that number? I will be very honest with you. I really thought 90% was my kill ratio when I was doing sales full time. I really, truly, in my heart, not gonna lie, 90% kill ratio I thought I got almost everything I went for. Once I went into the volume report inside of Square Coil and started looking at it, my kill ratio was 72%. So if you're one of those old sign guys that just thinks he kills everything that he has, really run the numbers one time, because I'm going to tell you, you're not as good as you think you are. Because I'm not going to lie, I broke my arm, patting myself on the back multiple times, only to find out I wasn't that good. 70% kill ratio was where it was really at. So design requests, 15 to 22 is where my hot sweet spot is. Estimates, 3 to 8. We can normally burn an estimate out in a couple hours. If we need to buy, or get an outside quote, that's going to take 2 to 3 days to get that outside quote. But for the most part, it's going to sit around that 3 to 8 range. As soon as I see more than 10 estimate requests in the queue, we got a problem. Bring our second estimator on, which is usually myself or my father or somebody else inside the company. And we're going to say, okay, tackle these easy estimate requests, tackle these easy ones, get them out of here. Let the head estimator that does this every day for a living tackle the big ones. But we're going to want to make sure that each one is handled in a timely process. Why do we worry about those numbers? Well, it's really simple. If we don't worry about those numbers and the clients now take 2, sometimes even 3 weeks to get a number back from them, what are they going to do? They're going to get a quote from somebody else. They might even go with somebody else, and they're not going to feel appreciated as a client. You have a 7-day window, a 5-day business, 7-day window to get a quote and a set of drawings back to that client to keep that interest alive. When they first meet with you and they walk away, they are pumped. They're excited. The sign's going to be there. Everything's going to look great. It's going to be awesome. They want to sign on the dotted line right there. If you could magically snap your fingers and there is a design and a proposal right there on the day that you met them, they're probably going to sign. Your probably kill ratio is going to go up quite a bit. But we don't have that luxury because we build custom one-off products. So since we have the custom one-off products, we need to in turn do our due diligence, put a drawing package together, have the estimator estimate it correctly, and then present. So we don't get the emotional high that the client has when we meet them, but we need to make sure whether we are within striking distance of that emotional high when we return back the proposal and the drawings. Okay, so when those numbers get too high, we can't be as responsive. We can't take care of the client. And so our customer service suffers, and in turn, our kill ratio goes down. Very simple. All right, the third thing I look at for water in front of the boat is the volume report. Now, if you don't have the volume report, you're gonna have to make this up on your own if you're not using SquareQuell. That's okay, I'm gonna walk you through it. The volume report is a snapshot of 30 days. The first of the month through the last day of the month, either 30 or 31st. This is going to show you everything that your sales reps have done in that 30-day period. It's going to show you how many projects that they started to chase, how many projects that they quoted, how many projects did they sell, what dollar number of proposals they quoted, what dollar number of projects they sold. Now I can see a snapshot instead of a 30-day window. This confuses some people when they first look at the report because it says they sold 32 projects, but they only opened 29. How is that possible? Well, it's real simple. Our turnaround rate is usually 2 to 3 weeks. So they open a project probably in April and they sold it in May. I'm only looking at what that sales rep has done in this 30-day window. That's all I want to see. And at some point in time, you're going to know for every 30 quotes, we're going to get 5 back. For every 40 quotes, we're going to get 15 back. And you're going to start to see a ratio that you just know if you shove enough stuff down a pipe, it's going to fall out the other side. So you guys need to start looking at those ratios of what your company's at. If you go out there and it's the 15th of the month and you only have 10 proposals quoted, your kill ratio is going to be really low that month, which is going to in turn make your company slow 6 weeks later. It's a long draw for most of us sign companies. If we're not making sales now, the shop is going to feel it 6 weeks later. That's what I feel initially in my company, 6 to 8 weeks. Yours are going to vary a little bit. For the most part, probably going to be in the 6 to 8 week ratio. All right, so that's water in front of the boat. The volume report, where the design queue is, and the estimate queue. Now, that's going to give me a good barometer of what's happening. Now, if I'm consistently over 30 design requests for like a month and a half in my design department, I better start hiring people on the back end because that flood of work in 6 to 8 weeks is going to come flowing through. And my guys are not going to be able to handle all that workload. Now, me being the greedy sign owner, I want all that work. I'm not going to turn it away. And so I want to be able to take care of those clients. So I'm going to know now I better hire somebody for these extra positions so I can handle the work that's coming in. All right, that's the front of the boat. Now, we've killed it. The work has come in. What reports do I look at to make sure our company's functioning correctly? I have 2 of them, both inside of SquareQuell. I'll explain them both to you. Open orders, department hours. Those are the only 2 reports that I use for driving my company on a 10,000-foot view. Number 1, open orders. This is a report of all the projects you plan on closing in a given month based off the calendar. So it's going to have 2 columns. Column 1 is forecasted. What are we forecasting to close this week? Column 2 is the work that we've already done and invoiced for that week. And it breaks it down the month by each week. On average, for my company, we get between $80,000 to $100,000 worth of product out of the door each week. So if I look at it and week 1 is only $60,000 out the back door, week 2 better be like 120, 130, which happens. It oscillates. That's why we don't look at a sign company as a weekly, but we look at it as a monthly, because the ebbs and flows kind of even themselves out over a monthly basis, and then we can see that monthly basis 12 times a year. So we're going to look at the open orders and say, okay, week 1 is 60,000, week 2 is 120, week 3 is 90,000, and week 4 is 150. This is a great month for us. We're going to be over our normal quota of 400,000 or higher. So we're going to really love this month. But what I really like about the open orders is instantaneous response on what's happening on the calendar. You guys are in the sign industry. You know this. What happens is the clients call and say, site's not ready yet. Or they call up and they say, we need you tomorrow. And the calendar is constantly evolving and moving and changing. And that's why we have drag and drop on the calendar, just to make it that simple, because it's always changing. But what if you had an $80,000 project that was the second to the last day of the month? Say it's the 29th. And we get a call and says, sorry, you can't be here until the 3rd. and you drag and drop that to the third. That crossed over the plane of the month, which means we don't have that job in the month that we're looking at right now. So let's pretend we're in May. We can't have that job in May. It's now moved over to June. Go click on the open orders report. Now it shows that we're going to close out 380 and not the 490 that we thought, or the 470 that we thought. That open orders report is instantaneous. So any change in the calendar instantly shows what's going to do to our bottom line for the month. So open orders, very important, very easy, but it's constantly evolving and constantly changing. So if you're going to try and have this report for your reporting and it's not directly tied to your calendar, bless your heart, you're going to be doing this for days and hours every single day to keep this report right. But in Sky Scorecard, it's a click of a button. So we love open orders. This is one of the main ones I look at. How much money is going to go out the back door? Now for me, $370,000 is break even. So I tell my team, you have to get over $400,000 out the back door every month. Anything over $400,000, it's a win. Under $400,000, it's a loss. Very black and white, very simple. Let's not lie. The world has a lot of gray in it. So black, just keeping your company in the black and white, way better than living in the gray. So over 400, win. Under $400,000, loss. Very simple. The other report, the department hours. What this report does, and this is a very intense report. If you're not running Scorecard, my apologies. I don't think you can run this report on your own because it just takes so much time and effort. It would suck up your whole day. And then you wouldn't even be able to do anything or affect any change from the report that you did get from the information you could glean from the report. So department hours. What it does, it takes every single project that you have. And some projects have 4 or 5 different estimates. It adds up all the estimates inside of that project and then breaks them out by every department that you have inside of your company. So if you have a set of channel letters and it's got 2 hours to CAD CAM, it's got 4 hours to letter fab, and it's got 2 hours to assembly, it is going to take this project, break it out, and show you in your company every department you have, every labor department, and then how many hours for every project that's live in your shop is there. And then it goes one step further and it says how many hours we estimated off the estimate, how many hours we've used the actual, and then how many hours is left until 0. Now from this report, I can look at it and say, whoa, all these projects are due in the next 2 weeks, and that's 400 hours. I only have 2 guys in that department. Impossible to get all this work done in the next 2 weeks. I can now raise the red flag and say, we have a problem here, help. How many guys can go in this department and help? How many customers we have to call and say, we can't hit your deadline, we need to move it back a week or 2. This open orders report shows me my bottlenecks or my gluttons for each department in my company. Very hard to see on the floor. You walk out, it's not like you see a whole bunch of signs stuffed near the paint booth or a whole bunch of signs stuffed near the metal department. They're kind of scattered all over the shop, and you really don't know in which department each sign is at right now. So difficult to see visually, but in the report, it's very simple to see. In this report, I can also see how many hours is allotted. Now, if it only says 100 hours is needed for the next 3 weeks for my metal guys, and I have 3 metal shop guys, I'm going to pare them back to 6-hour days. There's no reason to have them on 8s or even any overtime. I don't have enough work to feed them right now. So I can control my overtime, vacation time, or what the guys are doing. I shouldn't say vacation time, because that's completely different. My apologies. But how much time they're working versus overtime based on this department hours report. So open orders, department hours, those are the 2 main reports I do when I'm driving the ship, when the work is right there at us and the water is right next to the boat. Now, the last section, water behind the boat. We've done all our job, right? We've done everything. Now that the job is done, our side of the negotiation is complete. Remember, we said we'll build them a sign. They're going to pay us money. That was a negotiation. That was a deal that was made. We have now completed the sign project. Our side of the deal is done. Has the invoice been sent out? Is the invoice correct? When are we going to get paid? For this, I'm going to have internal structures in place, which mine are pretty much set in stone now, of the invoice leaves our shop within 24 hours of the sign being put on the wall. We have our policies in place for turning the order in, our invoicing team seeing it and making that invoice, looking through the notes to make sure any add-ons or upcharges is complete, and then moving that project all the way through. And then for me, it's the AR. I know the clients that pay inside of 30. I know the clients that pay inside of 60 days and claim they paid inside of 30. I know all the tricks. I got it. We have notes on all of our customers. But now I can understand what that income is going to come back. A lot of people don't understand how much money it takes to keep the company revolving. A company of my size takes $750,000 to $1 million to keep it going. We have 400 in AR. We have 200 in AP. That's 600,000 right there. We haven't even started what's on the floor, what's in payroll, what we have wrapped up in trucks and stuff, and oil changes. All of those costs keep moving around, and you have to have that amount of money sitting there spinning. Well, if your AR gets out of hand, now the money's not spinning in your system. It's just out to sea. Now, that's a big problem. So now I'm looking at the AR and then making sure, did my salespeople confirm that the invoice was out there? Did my front desk people call to confirm the invoice has been received? Have we talked to them to make sure they're happy with the service? And so inside of 30 days, we're going to get paid, and it's not going to linger out there further. How do I incentivize my team? Well, for me, my salespeople don't get commission until I get paid. So that commission is not won, it's not earned until the giant sign is on the wall and we've been paid by the client. That's the policy that I have inside of my four walls. So for me, recap, design, estimate, volume. Once we make the sale, open orders and department hours. Once we've made the sale and it's all done, making sure our salespeople are following up with the client, and we're looking at the AR to make sure it doesn't get back. All of these things that I just talked about takes me about a half an hour. If I see catastrophic problems, hour and a half. But I can quickly get on to the program SquareQuell, look at it, and inside of an hour, I'm done. I know everything's working well, and I have a pulse on what my company's doing. If you guys have a pulse on your company, love to hear about it. Love to see how you guys are doing it. If you don't have a pulse in your company, please reach out to me, direct message me. Let me find you some ways how you're going to have a good pulse for your company, because if you don't have a pulse and you're just looking at the banking account and praying you made money every month, that's a very scary way to run your company. So you got to be able to look at it every single day and make direction changes every single day. And I keep using this boat analogy, so let's leave you with a boat analogy. The way I run my company, I'm steering my ship 365 days a year. Every single day I'm looking at it. If you're only looking at your bank account at the end of the month, you're only steering your ship 12 times a year. That's crazy. 12 times a year is all the times you're touching the steering wheel of your company. I think we need to touch it a lot more. I think you need to have better policies in place for your company. Give me a call. Let's talk. Let's get you dialed in. Until next time, we'll talk next week. Thanks, guys.